Buenos días. Good morning. Bienvenidos a la Congregación Unitariana Universalista de Asheville. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Asheville. Soy la reverenda Claudia Jiménez y ministra de la formación de fe en nuestra congregación. I am the Minister of Faith Formation here at U Asheville. Visitor, member, or viewing online, visitante feligres o atendiendo en línea, queremos que sepan, we want you to know, que quien quiera que seas, that whoever you are, a quien quiera que ames, whoever you love, como sea que te identifiques, however you identify yourself in your fullness and your beauty and your complexity, usted es bienvenida aquí. You are welcome here. Welcome to today's service on this summer solstice weekend. It's so good to be back with you after a brief sabbatical. I see, and I must say, it is such a privilege and such a blessing for which I am grateful to have that opportunity to take 3 months to disconnect and just reset, which was my theme. And I am deeply grateful because it has really prepared me to come back to ministry in a time when our liberatory faith and the work that we do is deeply needed in our world. And I see old faces, I see new faces, and I'm deeply glad that you are here with us this morning. And I'm also grateful for our worship team, Dr. Les Downs, our music director, our tech, Simon Jacobs, and our worship associate, Jenna Jaffe, who stepped in yesterday to be my worship associate, because my worship associate, and I think you might be online, Deborah, got a cold and lost her voice and could not be here. So I appreciate Jenna stepping in. And having said that, I invite us to prepare for worship with our centering music.
Good morning. We're here to light the chalice, and we light this chalice, a symbol of our interconnectedness, with hope for the bonds we share and the connections we will forge. May this flame remind us that we are stronger together, and that our collective efforts and joyful presence can create positive change in the world. Please rise in body or spirit for our first hymn, number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. And we'll be singing it in Spanish and in English, and we're going to talk about that.
Okay, so I'm going to invite you to sit down again. You'll have a chance to stand up shortly. We're just going to quickly...
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Since we're going to go over it, I thought that maybe sitting down would be best. So we're going to just go over together the first few lines of the hymns that we're going to sing in Spanish. And I know that a lot of you know this, but some of us do not. And so let us together just repeat the words for our hymn. So we'll begin with Ven, ven, alégrate hoy.
Ven, ven, alégrate hoy.
Awesome. Es un día muy feliz. Es un día muy feliz. And then the second stanza that we're going to sing is Ven abierto el corazón. And then again, es un día muy feliz. Ven, ven, alégrate hoy. And do not be shy if you want to clap or move your body, because that's another way that the Spirit moves. So please rise in body or spirit as you are able, and let us sing together. Muy bien. All right, so today I have a time for all ages, and the pictures are going to be on the screen. So I'm going to invite young and old to look to the screen, and I was trying to figure out what our story would be, and one of the first things that I did when I came back from my sabbatical was connect with folks and decide to attend the rally. Thank you. To attend the rally March 14th. So this book really spoke to me. It's been sitting in my office for quite a while. It's called Sometimes people march. How many of you have marched? Okay, I'm not surprised. It is written and illustrated by Tessa Allen. Sometimes ants march. How many of you have seen ants marching? I know I have, in my kitchen. Sometimes bands march. Sometimes people march. Marching is something people do together when we want to resist injustice or when a need for change is noticed. And if you look at that picture on the left side, that picture commemorates a protest in 1909 that was a silent protest organized by the NAACP against Jim Crow laws in New York City. Next slide, please. People march for many reasons. They march for things they care about, and they march for the people that they love. People march for the health of their bodies, their communities, and the world. People march for the freedom to love and live and learn. And we're gonna pause here for a little bit so you can see which signs you identify. Sometimes people carry signs to share their stories of resistance. And I couldn't help it, but this is a sign that I saw on Facebook after the march, and it says, "We march as a family because someone marched, so we could be a family." And even though sometimes we think that it doesn't matter, showing up matters. Okay. So people resist in many ways. Sometimes they use their voices, sometimes they use their words, sometimes they sing, and sometimes they use art. And before we change the slide, does anybody recognize what the drawing with the guitarist on the boat is commemorating? That is Pete Seeger. And he and others were protesting the pollution on the Hudson River in New York. And that was one of the ways that they drew attention to that issue. And it really contributed to some of the change and cleaning up of the Hudson River. Next slide, please. Sometimes people resist with meetings, and this one commemorates the 1960s Delano grape boycott, in which Filipino and Mexican farm workers united to fight for safe and fair work conditions. Next slide. Sometimes people resist by standing, sitting down, or taking a knee. And that picture in the corner, the upper left hand, commemorates the 1899 Newsies strike. Does anybody know what the Newsies strike was about? That was working kids protesting unfair labor practices by the biggest newspapers in New York City. And so drawing attention to the issue was important because there have been changes around labor practices, and their protest encouraged others to protest about issues of injustice. Next slide, please. Protesting isn't always easy. Feet get tired, arms get tired, hearts and hopes get tired. Sometimes problems seem just too big and complex. But beloveds, we do not march alone. Bands are louder together. People are more powerful together. And this slide commemorates the International Hotel protest in San Francisco in 1977. Anybody heard about that? We're going to talk a little bit about in the sermon the importance of knowing our history. And I think this really addresses that, because as I was reading this book, I didn't know any of this stuff. And this is a wonderful children's book. So this is the International Hotel Strike, and this is a hotel that served as a residence for low-income Filipino and Chinese families in San Francisco, and it was also an Asian American community center. And the residents got eviction notices because the hotel was going to be sold. And 3,000 people in the community showed up and circled that hotel and protested what that would do to evict the residents. Now, as what happens with strikes, in this case, they were not successful. It ended up being sold. However, as you can imagine, the people that were being evicted must have felt seen and supported by those 3,000 people that showed up, put their bodies out there to say, this is wrong. And that is sometimes the only thing we can do in the face of larger powers, but people persist, and that's the beauty of it. Sometimes from feelings of fear or anger or injustice comes the hope for change. Sometimes change starts small with a brave questions. Maybe your question, a question that calls people together. And together, we find the courage to march. And I added that slide from the March 14 rally, where across this country, 5 million people, I said the wrong month, June 14th, came together to say, no, what is happening is wrong. No, this is not right. Being there, just being surrounded, how many of you were there, were able to be there? Just being there, didn't you feel that energy? Didn't you feel like, yes, there is hope, that we can come together and continue to speak up? It didn't change anything the next day, but we know that we are not alone, and we have that hope that justice will prevail. So that's our time for all ages. I hope that our children are able to learn more about what it means to show up and be in solidarity with each other, not just because they are part of this congregation, but because it is also part of what they are learning in their homes and their communities. And now Jen has a special announcement.
Good morning. I'm Jen Johnson, one of the religious educators here, and I want to share some good news about our high school youth in collaboration or anyway, I'm forgetting my word, but to go on Claudia's theme of being together and being in solidarity, our high school youth have been at General Assembly this week. We sent them off on Wednesday morning. That's very early in the morning. Look at their happy faces. Along with their good chaperone sponsors, 4 of them that were joining them. And this week they have been in Baltimore, Maryland with thousands of other UUs, attending workshops, hearing inspiring speakers, connecting with other youth and UUs of all ages, attending worships, and just the reports I've gotten have been amazing. So we're excited to hear from them when they come back. Please seek them out, and we'll hope to have some big way that they share with us too. But we wanted to honor what they're doing out in the world as well. So good news from them. Now, I'd like to transition our younger children down to our faith formation groups today. So if you are new with us today or haven't been here in our faith formation, we invite adults to just come out to meet your leaders, me being included in that, and know where to pick up your children after the end. So, children, it's our time to go together. Congregation, will you sing us out?
So it is wonderful to serve a congregation that is so committed to our youth and our children. And I don't know how many of you have been watching General Assembly. I've been watching off and on online, but our youth participated in the Synergy service, which is a bridging service. And they offer chalice lighting words, and they are really having an amazing time connecting with other UUs and witnessing the power of our faith, of people being together and educating themselves, worshiping together, laughing together, crying together. It really is a blessing in that we have 4 adults that were willing to drive out with them and spend the week and have that responsibility of taking care of them. It's just such a blessing. I am so grateful for this community and the impact that they have on the lives of our youth. And so with that in mind, with that idea of gratitude for the many things that happen in our congregation, and also holding space for the sadnesses and frustration and other things in our life that make it difficult, we take this time in our service to center, to breathe, and to, in community, create a space for all of these complex feelings that we bring with us this morning. So we'll begin with a short prayer, and then you will be invited into a moment of silence, and that will be followed by our ritual of the stones and the water. So I just invite you to take a few breaths. And if you need to wiggle your hands or your feet to just settle your body, feel free to do that. Feel the ground, the floor beneath your feet. Feel the air entering and leaving your lungs. And you are invited to close your eyes or lower your gaze as you feel comfortable doing. And let us reflect on this prayer by Reverend Samuel Tramber. Spirit of life, in which we are born, grow, and have our being, be in and amongst us this morning. Even though we have our difficult periods, we are grateful for the blessings of human form, for the warmth of the sun on cool mornings, for the delightful gift of color which brings pleasure to the eye, for the caressing and holding quality of beautiful music. Along with the irremovable hardships of existence, there is a joy woven into every moment. Often it is subtle and difficult to see, like looking for shark's teeth among the shells on the beach. Once one begins to see them, one can find them by the handful. Hidden in the routines of our lives, may there be a quiet, calming, centered joy, not the mountaintop exuberant joy or the long-suffering accomplishment joy, rather the simple joy of just being. In the coming silence, may we be touched and restored by this joy, which is freely available. Let us share a moment of silence. And now we will create space to honor the joys and the sorrows that we bring with us this morning. We add salt to our water to represent any sadness, sorrow, or grief that we bring with us this morning. And we acknowledge that alongside those sorrows that fill our hearts, there is also much beauty and joy and delight. And to represent that, we add some petals to this communal bowl that represents this community and how we hold those joys and sorrows together. For beloveds, we are not alone. So let us begin our ritual, and we are going to invite you to come along the sides, collect a stone, come to one of the bowls, and then return to your seat through the middle. And if anyone would like for one of us to put a stone in the water for you, please raise your hand and we will do that. Let our ritual begin. If you have placed a stone in our communal bowl for a joy that you celebrate this morning, know that we rejoice with you. And if you have shared a stone for a sadness or a sorrow in your life, know that this community holds you in love. And we will add a few additional stones for those who are not with us today, for those at home, that you may know that together or apart, we are one community. And we also add a stone for our beloved trans siblings who are being attacked, their dignity, their rights, by policies that are happening in our country. And a stone for all of those living with war, and for our country that just began military action against Iran. We are a people that believe in peace, that believe in dignity and love, and we are saddened that our own country is engaging in this type of behavior that's going to escalate violence. May we all figure out how we are called in this time to speak up for the dignity of all and to speak up for peace. Thank you, Les. These indeed are cloudy times. Literally and figuratively, I return to a very wet and rainy Asheville, and yet the sun still comes out, and every once in a while, we see a rainbow. As I prepared for my sabbatical adventures a few months ago, I shared that I was centering my Camino Portugués walk from Porto to Santiago de Compostela on the invitation by Francis Sansaro in Zen of the Wild to focus not so much on what I can get out of the walk, but what the walk can get out of me. And in the end, that became the focus of my sabbatical, not what I can get from the sabbatical. I try not to arrive at the walk with a to-do list of things that I wanted to accomplish, but to think about what the walk might get out of me, what the daily walking or hiking, the practice of letting go and being open to emerging thoughts and emotions, open to serendipity, open to what resonances might emerge from the new landscapes. During these 3 months, many things emerged from my experiences. My overarching theme for journaling and reflection became disconnect and reset. I disconnected from work, knowing that lay leaders, staff, Reverend Audette, and I had thoroughly discussed how faith formation and justice ministries were going to function in my absence. And I am now reconnecting with all my teams and staff, ready to joyfully re-engage with our liberatory faith and this community. I am grateful for all that has been accomplished in my absence, and especially to learn that our budget is under control, which is really awesome. So I just want to thank all of you who are part of making that happen, because we cannot do these ministries without you. It was difficult, however, to completely disconnect from the news during my time away. Our European traveling companions often brought up what was happening in the States, and TVs in small cafes and restaurants were unavoidable. Instead of trying to tune out, I listened, I felt the feelings, and affirmed to myself that it was okay to take a break from engagement to recharge my spirit for the work ahead when I returned. Later on, during our camping trip out west, I was truly able to disconnect, to immerse myself in nature, to appreciate the beauty and expansiveness of this country as we drove through diverse ecosystems, to enjoy new friends, however briefly, and an unexpected surprise, to learn the history of indigenous peoples of the Southwest. And I'll talk more about that later. In fact, one does not need to go far away to disconnect, but it was nice. We can disconnect and recharge by being intentional about taking breaks from the news, taking breaks from social media, a 15-minute break, an hour, a half day when possible, can be refreshing. One of the things that I enjoy and that brings me joy and helps me to prepare for my day is bicycling to work. This morning as I bicycled here, just the cool breeze against my skin, the sun, the squirrels. Sometimes I have to stop because someone's staring at bears that are walking. Sometimes we have geese crossing the road or turkeys. Just a 10-minute ride just allows me to prepare for the day ahead. So it could be something that you normally do, but taking that time out to be intentional and take a break is food for the soul. as well as any spiritual practices that you might engage in. And that allows us to be more present, to be resilient, to be mindful as we engage with one another in the many circles we are part of. And while I was on my trip, I stopped at a little cafe and bought this postcard, and it has a quote from Rebecca Solnit, which says, "When you face a politics that aspires to make you fearful, alienated, and isolated, joy is a fine initial act of insurrection." So I invite you to consider how you are making space for joy in these times. Think about today, think about the week ahead. Where are you creating those spaces that will sustain you as you engage in the world? So that's a little bit about disconnecting, a little bit about joy. And now I want to talk a little bit about a reset, because I had a lot of reset moments on my journey and a lot of reset ideas for my return, and I can't share all of them today. But one of the resets that occurred during the Camino was a mindset shift from "I can't do this" to "I can do hard things." The first days of walking were hard, and they were actually painful because I wasn't wearing my pack the right way, and it was hurting my hips, so walking just was not fun. And so those first days were hard, and the thought of reaching Santiago was daunting. However, I figured out how to wear my pack properly, so that helped. And I persevered. I took breaks as needed, leaving my ego aside because I was walking with friends, and I didn't want to be the one that was holding everybody back. But I realized that I had to walk my own Camino and not their Camino. So I did find my own rhythm, and that really made a difference. And that became my mantra during the whole trip, because afterwards we did a lot of hiking, and some of that was challenging, and I would often just walk and in my mind breathe and repeat, "I can do hard things, I can do hard things." And so when I returned to the United States and once again was immersed in the realities of what are truly immoral actions of our elected leaders, spreading misinformation, silencing critics, silencing elected officials, attacking the rights of our trans beloveds, scapegoating marginalized communities, and other actions that violate the dignity and ability of all Americans to thrive, I felt overwhelmed all over again. However, I remembered my Camino mantra: I can do hard things. And I know that each of you in your lives has encountered and persevered through hard things. And I know that collectively we can do hard things. And as we saw and heard in our story this morning, our history is shaped by citizen engagement. And there was a Supreme Court judge, his last name was Brandeis, who wrote that one of the most important offices in a democracy is that of the citizen. And so our country is shaped by citizen engagement. And as we saw in our story, there have been many protests, many rallies, many marches that have contributed to more justice. And there have also been losses, right? But we still persevere because justice and a beloved community where all can thrive, it can happen. We've seen glimpses of it. How many of you remember during COVID when the government provided family subsidies and we were able to see a reduction in child poverty? Okay, there are cities that are doing programs that are helping address the housing inequity, the lack of access to affordable housing. And yet, it's the lack of political will that keeps this from happening. And it's our role as citizens to persevere. To persevere, we may not see it in our lifetime, but we are called to speak up, to be present. And it's not just protests and marches. Gloria Brown Marshall, a legal scholar and civil rights activist who actually spoke during our General Assembly this week, emphasized the importance of protests and marches, and she actually wrote a book about the history of protests in the United States. And she also reminds us that resistance occurs through participating in courageous conversations. Participating in courageous conversations. How do we intentionally create ways to engage with people with whom we disagree? She talks about legal battles. She talks about social media advocacy and community organizing. There are so many ways that we can engage. And one of the tools that we have to discern what we are doing is actually the book that is going to be our common read this year. It's called Social Change Now, a guide for reflection and connection. And I think what is cool about this book that it's not just reading. It's reading and reflecting on what I'm doing, what we're doing, the different roles that we have. And it offers what the author Deepa Iyer calls a social change ecosystem framework. And this is what the framework looks like. So she talks about all of the different roles, and you may not be able to see it. Some people can be guides, some can be storytellers, some can be disruptors, caregivers, builders, and you don't always have to have the same role. But it is, whether you've been doing justice all your life, working for justice, or whether you're new to it, it is an opportunity to discern what are your gifts, what is your call, and to know that you don't have to do everything, that you figure out where your gifts can be of use and participate, rest, participate, and know that collectively we can move towards greater justice. And one of the things I appreciate about this model is that in the middle, it doesn't tell you what your values are supposed to be. It invites you to reflect on what your values are. And so who knows what this is? This is my little jet pig that somebody gifted to me when I came back from my sabbatical. And does anybody know what the jet pig is about? Okay, it's about our values. Okay, so those are the values that would go in the center of that diagram. And let's remember what those values are together. We spent last year in our Soul Matters groups, our small group ministry groups, exploring each of those values. And I think it's something that we will continue doing moving forward. So those values are J for E for T for P for I for interdependence, and inclusion is also a value, and G, generosity. So those are the values that ground our work as Unitarian Universalists. And one of the things I'm excited about is that the author also has a children's book that is called We Are Builders. And my vision as we launch our new faith formation year is to offer a series for adults and youth. You know, this is my thinking. We had 10 youth go to GA. I'm hoping that a few of those youth would be willing to be part of that conversation so that we can make it a multi-generational congregation exploration. And then we also would like to have a group for our families and our younger youth to explore her book, We Are Builders. So that's something that I will be talking about with our faith formation team, and I hope that you consider participating when the sessions are rolled out for our congregation this fall. So I've shared two considerations of how to live in these immoral times. Discern your role in counteracting the immoral decisions and actions we are witnessing, and allow space for joy and delight. The final consideration that I offer is for each of us to study and interrogate the history we have been taught and that which has been ignored. During my sabbatical, Steve and I drove across the country with the goal of camping and hiking and exploring the Southwest, and I did not realize how much history about indigenous people we don't learn in our schools. Many parks that we visited, and here are some photos from Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde where we saw cliff dwellings, had extensive exhibits and resources about Native culture I did not know about. And I was deeply moved to learn. You may not be able to read that quote, but what this quote says is that for the Native people, these cliff dwellings are not ruins. They are ancestral dwellings. And they are still alive for them. They visit them for ceremonies and to connect with their ancestors. And I had to, in my mind, make that shift. They're not ruins, they're sacred places for our Native communities. I was also surprised to read a sign at a museum in Mesa Verde explaining why large sections of the exhibit were covered while they were being reimagined. There was a sign as you entered the museum with an apology for presenting the exhibit through the white lens, omitting the voices of Native people. Wow, that is progress in one of our national parks. And yes, there's always a downer, right? Progress is also being undone. Books are being banned in public libraries and schools. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are being discontinued and demonized. And history is literally being whitewashed. And because this is happening, we need to engage with real history and find ways to make sure it is not lost to our children and our communities. Knowing history helps us understand what has shaped our reality, including the history that has been ignored, broadens our understandings of communities that have been othered or ignored, revealing their richness, complexities, and ultimately their connection to us. All histories are intertwined. They are American history. As human beings whose ancestors immigrated or were brought to this country and changed, All people of diverse identities and ethnicities have contributed to this multiracial, pluralistic society. So as we strive to stay grounded while witnessing immoral actions, policies, and executive orders that diminish the constitutional right, not just of those people, all of us are affected. If we are not trans and are not affected, we love people who are trans. We work with people who are trans. We are neighbors to people who are trans. Their lack of freedom is our lack of freedom. And that is what we talk about when we talk about collective liberation. That it's not those people, it's us. Our constitutional rights are being violated when these things happen. So, beloveds, as we deal with these realities, may we discern how our gifts and presence can best be used in these times. May we find spaces for joy, for rest and delight. And may we interrogate the history that has been taught and make sure that we recognize that American history includes all of us. It's not Latina history. It's not Black history. It's not queer history. It's our history, because our liberation is intertwined. We are deeply connected to each other. And so as I close, I would like to share a brief reading by Deepika Ayers that speaks to the importance of engagement and persistence. Our belief in the promise of social change through connections with one another is why we keep trying after feeling disappointment, why we keep returning after grieving, why we keep fighting after resting. It's why we keep building after systems fail. Why we keep loving even when we experience heartbreak. It is why we take actions that embody solidarity, resistance, and hope. It is why we infuse our efforts with joy, passion, affirmation, and healing. We intuitively know that something better is blooming, growing, emerging, and we want to be part of that momentum, that stream, that journey. So I invite you, as we close our time together in this week to come, to continue thinking about where you are on that journey, what your role is in that stream, and how you will make time for joy and delight as you do the work we are called to do as a liberatory faith. May it be so. Now, let us rise in body or spirit and sing together.
What a hymn. Okay, we'd like to invite visitors at this time to stand, give us your names if you'd like, and tell us where you're visiting from. We'd love to get to know you. And after our service, we'll talk about that in a second. Who would like to introduce themselves? Just raise your hand if you'd like to introduce yourself, if you're visiting with us.
I'm Bonnie Kenara Jones. I moved to Asheville about a year ago. I'm a part of a spiritual community that's near here that is pagan-based, but I'm looking for community with like peoples in Asheville in this time of tumultuous change, that I can find people to work with.
Welcome. And please feel free to stand and also come see me. We actually have a ritual, a pagan ritual later today at 5. Please join us.
Hi, I'm Ira Cooper. I live in Asheville, but I'm actually doing a graduate program in Boone, and I started visiting the UU congregation there, and today is my first time visiting here.
Welcome. Anyone? Yes, we have. Right here, second row.
Hi, I'm Nat, and this is Nate. And we live in Hendersonville. That's where we're visiting from, technically, I guess. It's, a little bit of a drive. And yeah, we're just here checking it out and seeing what, this congregation's all about.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Justine Lexfold, and I lived here for 30 years and moved away and am just in town visiting family and friends. And so it's not officially my first time here, but I feel very rejuvenated by being here, and I want to say thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome back. Anyone else? Well, after the service, please wave at Trevor here. And he's our connections coordinator who would love to meet with you after the service, especially if you have any questions at all. And please join us in Sandberg Hall, right outside there, at the welcome table, where we'd love to chat with you, and we have lots of helpful information and can answer your questions. Our announcements run as slides at the beginning of the service. If you miss them, please refer to Thursday's weekly e-news, as everything is described there. If you don't receive the e-news, email us at information@uuasheville.org, and we will get you signed up. Our community plate recipient this month is Beloved, or Beloved, actually. Anyone know how to pronounce that? Both ways. Nurturing and creating beloved community through their programs, Beloved Village, building deeply affordable homes, racial healing and cultural organizing, street medics, and street pantries. And I personally love this community. They've helped us so much and so many people after the hurricane. Our offering this morning will be split with our partner, unless you intend your gift to be applied to your pledge, in which case, use the envelope in the pew in front of you. You can also donate online. There will be a QR code. The work and ministries of this congregation are entirely supported by the generosity of our members and friends. We celebrate your generosity each Sunday with music and thanks. You make us possible, and we give thanks for you. The offering will now be gratefully collected. Thank you, Les. For the gifts of your presence, time, wisdom, and resources, we are grateful.
And as we prepare to close, we have music to meet the moment. I invite you to feel free to clap or move your feet or do whatever your body would like to do in response to the music.
It's time to lay down your sword and shield, put down your stone, bring down your fighter planes and retire your drones. It's time to show the world what we've always known. We are one, we are one, we are one. We are all one people, we are all one blood, we are all brothers, children. There is only one love, there is only one love. It's time to decrease your anger and release your fear. Uncurl your fist, beloved, our time is here. We're going to show the world how much we've grown. We are one, we are one, we are one. We are all one people, we are all one blood, we are all brothers, children. There is only one love, there is only one love, there is one, there is great wisdom shining on us from above. Let the sun condense us. There is only one love, there is only one love, there is one, there is great spirit, and there truly is in love. We are all brothers, children. There is only one love, there is only one love. Only one love, only one love, only one love, only one love.
Our benediction as we close this morning is no temas a la agitación
Do not fear agitation.
by Reverend Tania Márquez. No temas la agitación, puesto que es el ritmo de la vida misma, ser puesto en movimiento, iniciarte.
Do not fear agitation, for agitation is the rhythm of life itself, to be put into motion, to be stirred.
No temas los movimientos que descentran lo que creías permanente. Llevas dentro el centro de tu entendimiento, la brújula que te muestra el camino.
Do not fear the movements that decenter what you always thought permanent. You carry within the center of your understanding the compass to show you the way.
Lleva contigo el amor que te sostendrá, la visión que te guiará, las relaciones con todos los seres y el mundo, que te pondrán los pies sobre la tierra. Ve en paz y con suave agitación, mueve a este mundo hacia el lado del amor.
Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings, and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love.
May it be so, que así sea. Now let us rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn. Vayan en paz, go in peace.